With today's speakers, you have the privilege of seeing the results of your past generosity. I met Belinda Wilson about 4 years ago when I heard her incredible story in a Sunday school class. She is a lady of faith, a story of hope, and an inspiration to me personally. I'm grateful to Belinda for her participation today because I believe you will also be inspired by her story. Scott Dishman from the Family Effect knows Belinda and her story perhaps better than most. A familiar face in Greenville County's nonprofit world, he's worked closely with United Way for many years. In 2010, he helped launch the Family Effect, the philanthropic foundation of the Phoenix Center here in Greenville. The mission of this rapidly growing effort is to get to the root causes of family collapse and the harm to children in our community. Scott has a great story to tell about the Family Effect and the work at Serenity Place, a program funded by you in the United Way. It's a privilege now to welcome my good friend Scott Dishman to our kickoff luncheon, who will share this story and help to introduce Belinda to you. Scott?
I'm here to make this real for you. I want you to understand when Belinda and I are finished exactly what this all means and exactly why we're all here. And I want you to leave here in about 20 minutes and go back to your office and talk to your colleagues with some real purpose in your step and an understanding of why this is a job we really have to get done. And although I'm going to be talking about what we're doing at the Family Effect, I do realize that I'm really here on behalf of the 69 other United Way agencies that are funded by you and the rest of the community during the year. These are very special people. They're people that get up every morning who want to figure out how to make lives better for others and not just themselves. And they deserve all of our respect. United Way is a really interesting organization. It's all about collective power, right? It's a very unique collective power that we have here. It's the idea that an entire community can come together and pool resources and talent and knowledge and start to solve some big community problems in a big way. And I want to tell you that that collective power is needed right now. And each of you in this room is needed right now, because a house with our children inside is burning. In Greenville County last year, 1,700 kids were confirmed as neglected or abused in their own families and in their own homes. 1,700 children just last year. Let's think about that number. That's enough kids to fill 3 elementary schools in this county. Kindergartners, 1st through 5th grade, every kid, 3 elementary schools, about 1,700 kids. Next year, another 1,700 right behind them. About 600 of those children, 598 in fact, last year, were in a situation that was so dangerous and toxic for them that the state had to swoop in and pull that child out of the family and drop the kid into foster care. Foster care is not a place where any child wants to be, and it's not a place where we want those children to be. Foster care is a very traumatic place for children. There's a lot of great foster parents out there in this community who are heroes and doing a lot of work to take these kids in, but for the children it is very traumatic. And it's very, very expensive for us. State of South Carolina last year spent $101 million just on the administration of the foster care system in this state. You paid for that. All of us paid for that. You paid for about half of that through your federal taxes, and you paid for the other half of that through your state taxes. Upstate's share of that spending was about $21 million for the 5 counties that make up the upstate. So what did we get for that return? Well, we may have saved some children from really dangerous situations. That's true. Foster care is a necessary thing. But less than 50% of those kids who fall into foster care are going to graduate high school, according to some recent numbers that we just found last week. Less than 50% of children who are in foster care are going to graduate high school. Less than 3% will go to college. So for this huge investment of $101 million a year, next year another $100 million, a year after that another $100 million, what are we getting for that? We're getting kids who are traumatized and whose home is really burned down around them. I mentioned that there are houses with our children inside that are burning. These kids are losing everything. Not only possessions, but families. And they're losing their fair shot. And I think this is probably the most important point. They're losing their fair shot to participate in this community and in this economy in a way that we all need them to participate. It's not good for any of us. So there's a lot of efforts in this community to pull kids out of the flames of these burning houses, right? Some of those agencies are in this room right now, to take these wounded children and to try to patch them up and to make them better. And that's heroic work, it's necessary work, it really needs to be done. But more houses burn every day. Every day. So we have to ask ourselves some hard questions. Are we as a community really doing everything we can in the way that we should to save these kids and ourselves? Do any of us believe that this is really the best we can do? That in this community that values children and families as we do, to have 1,700 neglected and abused kids in a year and 600 every year going into foster care at a cost that's that high? Do any of us really believe that's the best we can do? The good news is no. We can do better. You believe we can do better. That's why you're here. That collective power of United Way, we all understand that we can do better and we have to do better. And it starts with, at least with our mission, an understanding of root cause. Let's get at root cause. Why are 1,700 kids neglected and abused in this county every year? If you talk to the Department of Social Services, they're doing heroic work over there. If you talk to lead clinical directors of the agencies around town that are working on the front lines of this problem, they will all tell you that somewhere between 75 to 85% of all neglected and abused kids have one thing in common, and that one thing is the addiction of a parent. At least one parent in the household has some kind of a problem they cannot get beyond. It's just eclipsed their ability to be a parent, and the kids are really falling through the cracks. Addiction in the home creates more neglected kids, more abused kids, more foster care kids, and more unprepared first graders than any other single root cause. So if we're serious about those issues, we've got to get after this problem. We cannot make progress in any of those issues unless we aggressively go after addiction in the home. The Family Effect and the United Way, and through the United Way, you are right there at the front lines of that problem. We work to reduce addiction as a leading cause of family collapse and harm to children. We do that by identifying where we've got kids and addiction in the same place at the same time and get in early to deliver services that break that dynamic. We put out that house fire so everybody can stay home. So what does that look like? There's a lot of programming at the Phoenix Center that gets after this issue. We had treatment last year for 1,100 families that had 2,100 children, actually 2,143 children in the families that received services from the Phoenix Center last year. That's a lot of families, that's a lot of scale. Well, what does that look like? Let's break that down to one smaller idea. I'm going to give you an example of one program that United Way, and therefore you, are helping to make happen in this community that's building some amazing success stories. It's called Serenity Place. Serenity Place is a residential treatment center for pregnant women, young mothers, and their preschool-aged children. The moms come into this program after having a serious problem with addiction. They've got a young child who's neglected or abused, and they're coming really for their last chance to break this problem and get some help. And, you know, this is going to be a little bit ugly. I'm going to take you a little bit out of your comfort zone for the next 3 minutes or so, but I think it's important for you to see where some of these women and families are coming from, and therefore you're able to understand where they're going to. Serenity Place is located in West Greenville, and we might get a knock on the door one day, and there'll be a 21-year-old young mother out there, and she'll have a 4-year-old girl at her side. This family's got a little BI-LO grocery bag with some clothes in it. That is all they own. You can tell by looking at this young woman that she's been using something recently. And you can tell by looking at this little girl that she's been profoundly neglected. And usually with addiction in the home, it's neglect rather than abuse. These kids are spending the first 3, 4, 5 years of their lives just sitting in the back bedroom of a house waiting for something to happen, and it never does. So in the years when their brain is trying to wire itself up, our brains can only wire themselves based on the input that they're getting. These little kids are getting no input. There's no friends coming over, no trips to the park. There's hardly any food in the house. There's just nothing happening. So we'll see this little girl. She can't walk correctly. She can't speak correctly. You place a book or a toy in front of her. She has no idea what she's even looking at, much less how to interact with it. And she might be a year away from public preschool. Just think for 1 minute, what would happen if we took a little girl like that, dropped her into a mainstream kindergarten class in a public school? We'd have no reasonable expectation of success for her. So this is the pair we have at our door, okay? So ask yourself right now, what do you think of that mom who's at the front door? She's abdicated her responsibilities as a mother. She's put her child at risk. All of that is true. But then we'll find out about a week into her treatment at Serenity Place that this 21-year-old woman has been sexually abused by her dad for the last 7 years. And that once a week, this guy was coming after her. And then we'll find out that her father, the abuser, is the person who introduced her to methamphetamine because he found it was a whole lot easier to abuse his daughter when she was high. So now what do you think of this young mother at the door? Right? She's made some kind of escape. She's landed at the door of Serenity Place, and she really just knows two things. Number one, she knows she would like to stop using this drug, but she's got a chemical dependency, and her body just won't let her stop. And number two, she knows she would like to be a good mother to this young girl, but she has no idea how that's done. She has no role models, no support, no positive models for mothering or parenting anywhere in her world. So there's three things that happen at Serenity Place to turn this family around. United Way is intimately involved here. Number one, we've got to treat the addiction in the mother because that's the bottleneck in the equation. We're very good at that work. We do that work in collaboration with curriculum from Duke University Medical Center. And the latest numbers that I've seen show that about 75% of our women who graduate the program, about 75% are squeaky clean a year later. That's almost twice the national average for addiction treatment. It's very, very important that we do that. The mother is in clinical counseling for 50 hours a week for 7 months while she's at Serenity Place. It is her full-time job. That's number one. Number two, we've got to treat this little girl, right? Because she's 4 years old and she's not anywhere near being ready for school. So while mom is in treatment for 50 hours a week, the child is in treatment also, surrounded by highly trained child therapeutic specialists who understand her case, understand where she needs to be in 6 to 7 months, and has certain milestones they've got to meet to get her there. The good news is if you've got these kids 24/7 for 7 months, you can make a lot of progress and do a lot of good. We're very good at that work. 1 year after they leave us, 83% of our children are performing at grade level in a mainstream school. Big, big turnarounds for these children. The last piece is where United Way and you really step in. When we've been investing in these families for 6, 7 months, and they're just about to graduate, that mom has got to leave Serenity Place with a toolbox. And it's a toolbox that I hope all of us were given by our own parents. It's filled with all those things that just you need to be an adult, right? How do you balance a checkbook? What does nutrition look like for you and your kid? How do you save money? How do you go get your driver's license? How do you take care of a car? Just how do you go get an apartment and make sure you've got your utility deposits in line? All those basic nuts and bolts that it takes to be an adult, no one has ever bothered to teach this young woman, ever. So when she leaves us, she needs to have that toolbox full. United Way is at Serenity Place filling that toolbox. United Way is funding a case manager that helps his mom connect with services and tools as she gets out of Serenity Place. And United Way also funds a parenting educator that is making sure she knows everything she needs to know to be the very best mom she can be. It's extremely important work. United Way's work at Serenity Place really protects the investment that we all make in having these women with us for 6 to 7 months. So that means really that you make that work possible, right? The only investments that United Way has to send to programs like ours to get to these kind of outcomes comes from the campaign. There is no other bucket of money. It must come from the campaign. So I'm here to tell you from the service side of this, and on behalf of the families that we treat, we really need to hit goal this year. It's very important that we hit goal this year. So I'm going to ask each of you to take some personal ownership for what's going on in this room, and through this campaign, which I think goes through October, and really do everything you can to help us hit goal. This work is important. It's transformative. Each of you is playing a part in saving children, saving families. And the single most compelling way I can say thank you to you is to show you living proof.
Good afternoon. And I am that living proof. I'm Belinda Wilson. And about 11 years ago, I showed up at the door of Serenity Place, pregnant, 3 months, 2 days before, had just took my last hit of crack cocaine. For 18 long years, I walked the streets of Greenville, going from doorstep to doorstep, from facility to facility. You did walk with me. Greenville, you stood by me. As I had to have a place to shower when I was homeless, I walked down the street and there was United Way. I walked into their day shelter. I took a shower. Later on, I went to their clothes closet and I was clothed. I walked a little further down the street, being hungry. The soup kitchen was there, and I was fed. But most importantly, my transformation came when I was taken in by Serenity Place, pregnant with my daughter, who is now 11 years old, honors student, an accomplished violinist. Also, they reconnected me with my family. I have a son, 28, a master's in accounting. I have a son, 16, 6'5", 100 and 200 and something pounds, and college campuses are looking for him. I was transformed on the streets of Greenville through your work, through your generosity, through your energy. I became a mother again. I became employed. And today, I'm working as a peer support specialist, helping other men and women find their way, because I had lost mine, but you helped me find my way. You walked before me. And for that, I want to say thank you. Thank you, United Way, for the services that you've provided. Thank you for having your doors open. Even when I didn't have a way to pay for utilities, I would walk down to the Buncombe Street United Methodist Church to get help with that. When I wasn't employed, some of the services that helped me was Bethel Bible Missionary Church, gave me a job. Neighborhood Focused Ministry offered me a job, and I was able to work. I had purpose. You gave me hope. You made my life worth living again. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And Art, I'm going to turn it back over to you because I'll start crying, because you all have been so generous and grateful, and I'm grateful for that. Thanks.